What you want and what you need could be the same, but it could be also very different. You may want to stay in the US because you're an international student looking for a job. Finding a job here is very difficult, but you may not need it. That's the thing. You may want it, but you may not need it. What you need is.
Just want to take a small time to introduce Zip, although she doesn't really need an introduction, but
A few of you don't know me, so
but that's
yeah.
Zip for you. She's the CQO, Chief Quarter Life Crisis Officer, and she has been sort of the brain and the heart and the soul behind Bloom in Crisis, and just an inspiration for all of us to sort of deal with situations better and how we can make it a lot more productive talk, a lot more impersonal, but also ensure that it's real, it's raw, and everybody gets to just put their thoughts out there. And something that we did put out in the message was you come for clarity and you stay for community. And that is something that we're really trying to build here for everyone. So the three of us hope that this is a really nice conversation and we can get started from there.
So let's take a moment to also introduce you guys, because I think that it's important to know, for everyone to know who you are. I mean, thank you for the introduction, but just to kind of bring it back to real life, I do have an actual full-time job as well.
Yeah.
And Zachary knows this. I work at the BBC, and some of you may know me through Blooming Crisis, and some of you may know me through BBC First. But that's where I work full-time, and I oversee business intelligence and yield for BBC Studios in the Americas region. So thank you for being here, showing up, and that really tells a lot about what's important to you guys. I'm gonna pass it to the two of you to introduce yourself.
Okay, I'll go first up. So hi everybody, my name is Harshi Jain. I am originally from India, Mumbai, a city very like New York, but kind of just I really feel it's very similar to New York. So it was my dream always to be here. So I'm currently a MSMI student, Marketing Intelligence student at Fordham Uni School of Business, and I'm looking forward to having this engaging and positivity-filled conversation with all of y'all. So yeah, that's a bit about me, and passing it on to Vinita.
I'm Vinita. Like Harshi, I'm also a Master's in Marketing Intelligence student, again from Mumbai as well. And I think just Bloom in Crisis started with me being curious about the name, and then it was just a build on of how it's sort of helping me become better, sort of how it's just a lot of things to learn from, because as an international student, it can be a really stressful time. It can be really overwhelming. And just to hear someone who's been through the same things and just to take those insights was really helpful. So that's about me. And if we could just have a small, quick introduction around the table, just to get a little sense of who we're here with and just to make the conversation a little bit more intimate. So,
A few moments later.
Thank you. And I think that some of you, actually, I thought that most of you already knew me through the BBC, but I spotted that only a few of you are here because of that. And then some of you I just knew today. Vinita as well is an example of someone who I actually didn't even know her through the internship. She never applied to the internship, and I think we only met at the conference that Professor Lina Luca invited me to speak. And she spent the entire time just one-to-one with me and just asking me about Blooming Crisis. So I want you guys all to just embrace the three words, Blooming Crisis, today as we are talking, having conversations, because what it means is that there's really nothing that we can't talk about. I wouldn't come up with Blooming Crisis if I think that there are certain things that I don't want to talk about. So let's embrace that in the conversation today, and I want to make sure that we leave some time at the end for everyone to ask their questions.
So I think this would just be a really good way, since you mentioned that this is how Bloom in Crisis came for you. It would just be a really nice way for people who don't know also about Bloom in Crisis for you to mention a little bit as to how that came into play, and just as to why Bloom in Crisis, just the principles, so everyone knows what they're in store for.
Okay, so this is a question that many people have asked me. And before I answer, but like, what comes to your mind when you hear the name Blooming Crisis? Like, what's your impression in general? And anyone else
Yeah.
can say. Any of you can just shout your impression of the name.
Say, like, thriving through adversity and difficult times.
Okay.
I think personally for me, Bloom Crisis it directly sort of connected to a lotus. And that's also because that is a tattoo that I have. And that was something special because a lotus is something that really does come out of the mucky waters and it's always blooming afloat. So for me, that was a very catching point as to what Bloom Crisis really means. That stuck with me.
For me, first thing that came to my mind was when the harsh winters go and spring comes through. So the flowers are blooming. So like that's something that came to my mind first. That maybe that's something that was related to this name's inception. So the whole experience of right now that we're experiencing the blooming nature. So that's something that came to my mind, and how it shows that like we can survive through harsh weather conditions. That way the same way in life, how you can survive through a lot of difficulties, a lot of challenges, and come out stronger. Like come bloom. So like flowers. So yeah, that was something that came.
Yes, Ishana.
I think something that came to my mind was like how like when you go through difficult times, like I think for most people it like hardens you a bit. But I think with your name it kind of like shows like you can also soften during hard times, and that very few people are able to do that, but if you are, like it's very transformational.
Yeah, it's almost like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but just in a better and more positive way to put it out there.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
Not that what doesn't kill you make you stronger, but whatever challenge is coming your way will bring out the best in you. That's the belief of Blooming Crisis. And I love hearing all your interpretations because that wasn't what I thought when I came up with the name. But I'm very glad to hear that in like everyone who said something from like your interpretation always has like a positive note to it, and that means a lot because oftentimes people just think of crisis as a really negative thing, right? But I think that when you frame your mindset in a way that allows you to transform the crisis you're going through, to blossom from it, that allows you to, I hate the word manifestation because it's so many people use it in the wrong way and kind of overuse it, but it's really allow you to create the reality that going to be prosperous and fulfilling for you. But my short answer to your question, I'm gonna give you two answers. Short answer is that it literally I just blurted it out.
Okay.
It wasn't any kind of analysis or like going through different options. But the long story actually is that when there was a girl, if you guys listen to all the way to like the beginning of Blooming Crisis podcast, I co-hosted it with someone who knew me through the blog that I started a year before that, and she came to me and she asked a lot of questions, and that's how like we kind of came together and to do like a podcast. Her name is Hương, and she actually just texted me the other day when she saw the event, and she reminded me that the podcast was when we launched it was on Thursday last week. So yeah, I always feel very appreciative of Hương, and she's still someone I truly treasure in the journey, and she helped me kind of ideate some names for what is now Blooming Crisis, and something always ends with Zip, like Night Talk with Zip, or like something like that with Zip. And deep down, I just know that I don't want my name to be in it.
Okay.
And but somehow I just blurted out Blooming Crisis, and I think I'm still in the journey of trying to understand what it means. I think subconsciously I know that for example, my real name. So the name you guys know of me now is Zip Nguyen, and Zip is how my middle name is pronounced. My real first name is Anh. So in Vietnamese, and this is like ancient Vietnamese language. It's similar to like Sanskrit, but
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
really speak
Yeah, you don't
anymore.
speak.
But it has meaning to it. So zip means leaves, and Anh is associated with flower. So since I was young, I always kind of like imagined myself as a flower. But how my name came together, it wasn't that poetic. My mom basically picked the two friends that she had in her class that she saw like the best two students in the class, and she combined the two names together, and it became my name. But on the poetic side of things, I always kind of like imagine myself as a flower. So the word bloom always felt kind of some sort associated with me, and it's the same as crisis. I think that I talk about crisis very casually because I've been through a lot in my life, and it just become part of life. And I, instead of feeling like ashamed about it, I want to embrace it. And I think that if anything, the long answer is that that's how it came together, and it just became, instead of me analyzing what the name should be, it becomes something that it was something that came out very naturally when I wanted to name the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us, including the uncertainty that you have with this journey. I think that really helps us resonate of how uncertain things can be, and it's just absolutely fine to be uncertain about it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, since you mentioned as someone who's been through a lot of these crises, I think it would be a really nice way to sort of start this conversation, because the theme is also a lot about chaos to clarity. So just having that focus on chaos and crisis. I think my first...
Great idea to come up with that name, by the way. Zachary loved it.
You did? Did you like the theme from chaos to clarity?
Yeah.
He was the one who also like approved it when I
Yeah, I saw your text
Hashtag
about that.
Yeah.
No, we're so glad, because I think Harshi and I were a little bit in discussion about that, and something that sort of at least resonated with us, and we thought that it would extend to resonate with everyone, is chaos to clarity.
Yeah.
Because we're in that mid time right now, either looking for internship or graduating or just even navigating as to
Life.
what's really happening. So just from that to a space, what we want to get out of this conversation was clarity. So that was just the whole thought process behind it.
It's
But-
like that time of the life where you're just trying to figure out everything that's happening around you and try to make sense out of it. So that's why this name kind of like really fit in, because that's what we are feeling through, and that's what Zip wanted as like, it should be about you guys, like what you feel like. So
Yeah, and also I also want you guys to know that I'm also one of you guys. I'm also trying to constantly figure out what the journey I'm going through, and transforming chaos into clarity myself. So this is a great conversation for us all to have.
Well, I'm so glad about that. And mentioning a little bit about your journey over here, my question to you is going to be, if you could share a time in your journey when you felt behind, and how you stayed grounded with your self-trust and just how to honor your pace. And this comes from a thought process as to right now, I think we all have a lot of to-do lists to go. We all have a lot of courses and mid-semester and internships to like reach out and people to talk and all. So the sense of being behind, the sense of, I have a lot to do, can be very overwhelming. So someone who's been through this, I think it would just be nice to hear as to how we can get on with this.
Yeah, so before I answer to that question, I think that, you should look around the room and also see that Professor Linda and Professor Kate are here. And what it means is that, they also think that beyond your finals, beyond getting a perfect score is extremely important to you guys, right? Because they help organize the event. And I think that sometimes it's good to put things in perspective as well. I know you're in school and it always feels like, getting a 4.0 GPA is like the most important thing in life. But having the professors here reassures you that, they do want to support you in life, and we can't be perfect in getting a 4.0 in every aspect of life, and that just put things in perspective that you're not really behind at all. you know, and it will be more appealing, more apparent to you guys after you guys graduate, because there are a lot more than what you guys are dealing with right now. That's how I see, you know, sitting here talking to you guys like this after I graduated school a long time ago. But to answer to your question about the time when I feel that I'm behind, so my journey is quite different, because I think that, you know, for a long time in my life, even like leading into my mid-20s, I never felt that I was behind. I always felt like not that I felt like I was ahead of the game, but I never felt like I was behind.
Okay.
And it was because I felt like career-wise and like things like everything in my life just tend to kind of work out. And you know, not that, I mean, when I was in Vietnam, I was not good at school at all. But even at that time, I just felt kind of like out of place rather than feeling behind, you know, because I always felt that I am more capable than what I'm perceived, if that makes sense. But then I definitely had gone through many times in my life where I felt just like, you know, like my whatever track that I'm on, I just felt like it just so outside of the norm, and just not really, something just didn't click for me for a long time. But if you look at the things on the surface, like, you know, being in a relationship, getting jobs, and like nearly internships. When I went to America, I did very well in school. Everything looked great, you know. So actually, for a long time, my journey always felt like I wasn't behind. Even when I was in my MBA program at Pace University, I got my first full-time job before I graduated, you know. So I graduated in May, I got my offer in April, and I already started working since as a part-time and then converted to a full-time. And then the moment when I realized that, not that I felt behind, but I just felt extremely unfulfilled, was when I felt like I had everything that people wish to have. And you know, when I look at myself at that time, you know, I did appear to have everything. I got a great job, you know, I was in a great relationship, and you know, everything just kind of worked out because I worked really hard for everything. And then it was also the time when I felt, it was like 2 years after that was the my longest period when I just felt extremely depressed.
Right.
Because I just knew something was just missing, and as a matter of fact, everything just kind of went downhill after that. At least like internally, that's how I felt, and even people didn't see it. And that's why I want to put things in perspective, that whatever you guys are seeing, people out there achieving things or looking like they have everything figured out, that's not the case. I know it wasn't the case for me, and it was actually the time when I felt like I had everything, was a time when I felt like I have to kill that version of myself, and I want to be born again and try to figure out what I really wanted to have in my journey and what I needed rather than what I wanted.
Wow. Wow. I think I'm gonna need a minute, because that
Yeah.
is something that I feel I end up dealing with a little bit. I end up putting a little bit more pressure on myself, that, oh, I'm falling behind, or, oh, I need to do this and I need to that. And I think a little bit also comes from a space of wanting to try everything and wanting to do everything, but just knowing that a perspective change is required. I think that really helps. That really helps, yeah.
And I would also like to ask others, like, what did you feel about learning about Zip's journey, or like would you like to add something from your own experience here, like?
I can add.
I mean, I can totally relate to this story because when I was in India, I was working and I had my life all figured out.
Yeah.
I would say
Yeah.
it was. I mean, I didn't need anything at that point. I had a good job. I was living at home,
Yeah.
a remote job, all well. And then when I came here, I mean, I was always a confident kid, A's, first class.
Yeah.
You know, good in dancing, singing, everything, that
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of thing. And then I came here and everything changed. Suddenly I started feeling like I'm not good enough.
Mhm.
When I saw other people doing amazing things, and I saw, like, I was crying in December that how will I get an internship? I was
Yeah.
seeing these YouTube videos that when you land in July, you should have an internship already.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we all must have seen these kind of videos on LinkedIn that if you're
Yeah.
graduating next year, you should kind of have an internship by
100%.
August or December. And I was in tears because I was like, I was this good, the perfect person, and now I'm a complete failure. And how will I get over it? And then, I took a moment. I mean, I shared some of these kind of experience with some of my friends. They know that I was crying, and then 1 month I took a break. I didn't apply to any internship. I was like, I'm not going to apply. I'm just going to breathe
Mhm.
and just focus on other things.
Yeah.
And then I started studying and doing some random courses. I started enjoying New York and genuinely made some meaningful connections.
Yeah.
And then eventually I found my way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I can relate to it that you should at some point stop comparing to people. You want to grow, which is absolutely okay, but I mean, there's no point in comparing because
Yeah.
there will be someone who might be doing better than you always.
Yeah.
But you just have to just make the next step for yourself.
Correct.
And be happy with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so-
nice.
Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing
Thank
that.
Thank you for sharing that. That was
Thank
really
you.
raw and honest. But coming to that from Triveni's journey, if you see, like, she also had her plans. She thought it's figured out, but plans do change, right? So to zip about navigating career growth, personal challenges, and like just navigating your plans for future when it comes to your career. When is an instance where you heard a no, right? You got to hear a no, or you got a silent treatment. How did you navigate that, and what was your experience there, where you still stayed grounded in your self-worth, where you put your ground down and you were like, no, I'll get through this, or like, this is not the end? So have you had these instances, or you would like to share your experience on this? And how you navigated it, because we all are facing this no kind of a situation right now.
Yeah.
It's
Like in
really
our face
too many.
knows,
Yeah,
like,
yes.
our
it
faces
is-
are like no. So just want to know more what you.
Yeah, I think that some of you, maybe some of you already heard a sneak peek of like what I shared at the marketing conference event, right? And if you went like I was gonna say a few months back, but maybe like a few years back, when I share something on LinkedIn as well, like sharing just some of the screenshots of all the rejection email that I received, just to normalize it, because like I think that maybe out of 10 jobs that I apply to, maybe like a third of that, I would hear something back, and then maybe 1 out of 10 I would get like an interview. And out of maybe one of like a couple hundred jobs I apply, I get one job offer. Just to put things in perspective. So that is something I think you just gotta normalize it for yourself and for each other, and hopefully through my journey I normalize it for you guys as well. Someone who, at this place where I am now, and you guys, if you guys feel like I'm successful at X, Y, and Z, just know that that's only on the surface level. Like all the rejection letters that I received, no one is talking about it now. So that's one. But talking about the no's, I think that they are very powerful. What I did to that, though, I think it matters more than the number of no's that I received.
Yeah.
So one is for every single employers that reply to let me know that they are not able to hire me, or they selected another candidate, I always reply with appreciation and thank you, because number one, I'm truly grateful to even receive that email,
Correct.
right? And secondly, I want to encourage that more in employers as well. But they don't have to let me know. Like, they can also ghost me, quote unquote, and that's also fine.
Yeah.
But I want to encourage the behaviors that I want to see more in the world in general. And truly, I feel grateful for all of those experiences, because what it helped me is that it shaped me and navigate me to the path that is meant to be for me. And another example that I talked about with some of you before is, when I have gone through 5 rounds of interview at a very, very big company, and I even received the offer letter, like the, say like, congratulations, we want to like get you, like scan your background, like I got to that final stage that I was ready to get that job offer, and the company had a restructure, right? So it just gone. And I've gone through 5 rounds of interview. I still remember I was traveling in Europe at that time, and I stay up until 2 a.m. to have an interview with someone in New York. But that's, and after one email saying that we apologize, this role is closed because, it's because of the restructuring and all that stuff. And I think that at that time it definitely made me feel quite discouraged at the beginning to like, I've gone through like 2 months of really pouring all my heart into this job, and I had to begin again. But I think that what it really stayed, like the mindset I always have is that what is the thing I'm going through is teaching me right now, what I'm meant to learn right now. And the theme I'm seeing in my journey is patience and discipline. Those 2 words, I think what I also embody, that people who know me see that in me. I think that resilience is a word that we talk a lot about as well, right? But what resilience means is really having the patience, but also the discipline to overcome the things that you're going through. But I think that, I hope that you guys also see some positivity, like the not just positivity, but like the possibility in the no and the rejection you guys are getting, because it's shaping you in the right direction. Sometimes it, years from now when you look back, it's meant to be. It's meant to be, but it doesn't mean that your path or your connection to that person or that employer, or it doesn't mean that it's the end. You can still nurture that relationship. And that's also important to keep in mind, that relationships are not transactional. Like a lot of the things that I'm putting myself out there, right? So I'm in a vulnerable position, because sometimes when you put yourself in that seat where you're giving out a lot, sometimes you don't get the same thing back. And what I learned is that that's fine, and I'm still willing to give, because I know that the things that coming and the things that I'm grateful for are the things that I can't explain. It's not transactional at all. Like for all the things that you guys are seeing that I'm having now, for example, it's not because of the transaction that I've done for someone who give back something to me. It's something that you pour yourself, you give back to the world, and then somehow the universe will give it back to you in one way or the other.
I'm gonna throw this question out to everyone, because I just think just how everyone handles a no is very different. For you, assessing and regulating your emotions and just trying to see a silver lining through any of those situations, I mean, that's commendable, because when that's going on, it takes a lot to be above the surface and be like, I want to assess what is really happening. So this is actually to everyone, in terms of how is it that you have dealt with a no, and like how has it been for you in terms of, okay, a no means a no, but how do we turn it into a yes for ourselves. So just out there, thoughts, anyone?
I think I have a little to say about this.
Yes.
So the most recent knows that I think I can relate to about the college applications
Yes.
that we did. So when we were applying, it was so difficult for us to choose where to apply because there were a
100%.
few places where which we knew that yeah, I think they're gonna reject me.
Yeah.
So I think the selection there, like maybe still trying and applying, that maybe we could get a yes. That was a difficult point, and for me personally, for some I did take a chance. For some I self-rejected myself that I don't think I can do that. But then when I did hear a no, so when I applied and I gave the interviews or I put in my application, I made a pro and con list. That
Wow.
like not a pro con list but a positives and negatives.
Yeah.
That for example, for one interview I really messed up and I made a list that this is what I did good, this is what I did bad. And when I heard back from that, I tried to connect it to what I
Oh, I
did,
love that.
and that kind of helped me stay sane.
100%.
Because a lot of times you forget
Yeah,
what you did,
yeah.
and then you cannot connect that what
Yeah.
went wrong. So I think
Yeah.
making that list and just writing down a few pointers
Yeah.
really kept me grounded and helped me to understand that okay, yeah, at that point this is what I did wrong, because you always hear back months later,
Yeah.
and that's when you
100%.
completely forget about what you said or what you did. So I think that's something that's the way I handle
Yeah.
rejections and go through it.
Yeah.
No, that's really interesting.
It's like reflection over your,
Kind of, yes.
and then that helps you improve. So like the reflection exercise really helps, and when your memory is really fresh, right? So
Exactly.
you're able to keep yourself like, okay, don't focus on the no, focus on the why.
Yeah.
And also, I really encourage everyone, like all of you, to write more often. When we talk about from chaos to clarity, the more you write, you don't have to share with everyone, right?
Yeah.
I have my blog and I share a lot, but that's probably 1% of everything that I write to myself. And a lot of that is actually what I wrote to myself, and then I just share it in, reflection and share it with others when I think it could be helpful. But the more you write, the more that is going to become clearer and clearer and clearer to you guys. But I really encourage you all to double down on your strengths and not your weaknesses. I always in my conversation with anyone that I've talked to, I think in this room, if you remember, I always show you and help you focus on your strengths, because that should be your focus. That's the self-talk that you should have with yourself. And I think also actually there's a very
Yes.
practical example of even with blooming crisis, right? When I started, no one knew what this was, and I think that a lot of people still don't necessarily understand what blooming crisis is, and it makes sense because I'm still figuring out what I'm doing.
100%.
And when I started it, just like everyone else doing podcasts, I reach out to people and I invited them to be my guests on the podcast, so we can have an interview, so and so and so, and it kind of worked at the beginning, and then it got to the point where I think that also some people, with no bad intention, right, but I have a small platform, I'm still trying to figure this out, and I don't have a huge audience, right, and sometimes people don't necessarily want to be on my podcast, not because that they don't like me or anything personal. It's just that it's probably not worth their time, to be honest. They have other priority, and that in a sense is a no, right? And people, not that they have to be mean or anything, and I don't take it personal, but even the silence or not saying no, but just also not saying yes.
Yeah.
And I went through a lot of reflection in what I'm doing, and then that actually, if anything, it kind of put me in the path that and I kind of also get bored of interviewing people in general, to be honest, because when podcasts become so popular, after a few years when I started it, everyone is interviewing someone, and it was I don't feel like there's a role that I need to play here, because everyone has a platform that they can go to and interview someone else. And I never really had like an ideal dream guest in my mind that I want to interview anyway. I like just authentic connection, and like things like what I'm doing here is what bring me more joy. And in a way, it like put me in the path of like, okay, Zip, maybe you should just have this platform to, instead of trying to interview someone, you can just tap into your own inner wisdom and share it with others and bring other people in your journey. So what you're seeing me doing with Blooming Crisis now is probably very different from how other podcasts is done. And in a way, I'm enjoying a lot more. And that is how, in this particular situation, that's how I navigated it. But I also know that a lot of you love every time when I use relationship analogy, you can apply it to career and vice
We were
versa.
gonna come to that. Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna come to that. Okay.
I mean, you can't. You were the one who started it off at the marketing conference, and you got us all laughing at that. So I think that set the tone in terms of okay,
What
this,
we could talk about.
yeah. I think it was like a very nice way of the icebreaker that happened.
I think that panel was so serious that your analogies like got people to like just lighten up and like remember that you're an international student, but you can still have fun, right?
Yeah, and that is something I think you guys should remember, right? In the journey, you should have fun. Like literally have fun. Like that's what I reminded you guys about today, right? Don't take it too serious. But just like in relationships, silence is a response, right? No reply is a reply. And I think sometimes we just need to come to our own closure that, if, and trust me, and I'm in a hiring position now, I am someone who I know that I always try my best to reply to every single one and be as responsive as I can. But even with me, with that mindset, it also got to the point when I have so many other priorities that come into play, and I have to really reshuffle my priorities and remind myself I only have that much time in a day. And that allowed me to empathize in situation when people don't have time to get back to you, or coming from my own self-awareness that if you don't get a reply from someone, I think it's important for you to also tap into your inner self-awareness and know that whether you're good enough, and answer that question to yourself. And in many ways, when you don't hear back from someone, and trust me when I say this, if you are top of mind, that person will always get back to you. Just remember that, so that you can move on. So for example, I think it's actually I encourage you guys to follow up once, okay? Because sometimes I actually appreciate when people follow up and remind me, just so that it float back to like the top of my inbox, or I want to do it, but then I forget, and it does happen. But I think that you can do it once. I think maximum twice, but I think usually just once. And then if you still don't hear back, then it's just not meant to be. And just take it like in relationship, like if you don't hear back, just take it as a no and move on. Because if you're someone that is top of mind, they will for sure get back to you, because people at the end of the day, almost everyone is driven by self-interest. Okay, so people will get back to you when it's important to them. But I think the lesson here is not to take things personal, and that's something I have to learn a lot in my life, because otherwise you will always battle yourself with the self-doubt that you have.
I honestly think it can be a little difficult sometimes to not take things personally, especially if they're said to you, even if it's your friends who are trying to tell you, because they're your friends, you take it all the more personally. Or because sometimes pride, ego, a lot of these synonyms can also come into play, and you're like, how can someone be so critical of me? And I think this is something that sort of segues into my next question really well. Is you mentioned about tuning in, right? And sometimes that can be a little similar to like slowing down and just being like, okay, I'm going to let it happen and let things happen. And then there's one where like I'm going to slow down and tune in into seeing what is really working out for me, right? If this no is coming my way, why is it this way, and how can I sort of repurpose it in a way that it's not hampering me, and what is really best. So where I'm leading to with this question is, how is it that you have sort of managed to be present in the moment? Because it did take a lot of you being mindful. It did take a lot of you to be, okay, I'm going to see what's really tuning in. Something that even Triveni mentioned, that she, for 1 month, she was like, no, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to enjoy and I'm going to see what's working out for me. And just to hear these instances, it's so important to be present in the moment, right? Just to be there, okay, I'm going to have fun, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. How has that been for you? Because tuning in can also be super chaotic when your mind's rushing everywhere and you don't know which thought to pick on and build on. So that would be really helpful if you could talk a little more on that. I love how you had to take it all in. I love
me
that
being
now.
present right
Yes,
now.
I love that.
Because I wasn't someone who was good at being present. You know, I was someone who always thought, I used to think of like 1,000 different scenarios in advance and like analyze all situations. And I think part of it is also why I'm pretty good at my job. Because I could think of different scenarios and analyzing very quickly. And that is to speak that I wasn't very good at being present, you know, and I think since I started practicing yoga every single day, it really changed it for me.
Okay.
I only started it maybe 1.5 years ago and it's been a journey, but I think that when you, I think first of all, I think that before I answer any question, I think it's important to understand why it's important to stay present, because I think that what I know that I'm pretty good at is analyzing the patterns that have been showing up in my life. And I think that's a skill set that I highly encourage you guys to cultivate. That's through writing is one of them, reflecting, talking to people and like getting perspective from people of the things that you're going through. But the one very important skill set is to picking up the pattern in your life, and it's powerful because it allows you to replicate the good patterns like and multiply it so that you can create much more like best case scenarios in your life, which is part of my practice. And another thing is that because you are able to recognize the pattern, you are also able to break the bad pattern. So it's really, really, really powerful. And I think what I notice in my life is that I do have the pattern of projecting my expectation to the future. I have a lot of expectation, you know, in my life because, you know, look at me, I work hard, you know, I'm putting all my energy into things and they are supposed to work out, even like relationships wise, and a lot of the things I think that, you know, as long as I work hard, I'm gonna get it. And it's something that I had to take a step back and I just like, you know, like you're creating a scenario that doesn't even exist yet. And it comes down to who you are at this moment right now. Am I happy? You know, like my mind used to be like, I want to be happy. But in the present moment, I wasn't like, I didn't embody happiness myself. I used to seek happiness from somewhere else and someone else, and you know, and that's why I also felt like I didn't feel whole, but in my mind I'm like, I'm supposed to be happy.
Yeah.
And then because I recognize that pattern in my life, which allow me to realize the importance of being present, which allow me to realize that I need to do something about it, and practicing yoga was one of them. Because whenever you have to engage with your physical body, right? Remember the times when you go through pain. Everyone has some painful memory, right? Whether emotionally, physically, probably you broke something in your body, or like you gave birth, or like, you know, you I don't know, like have an accident or something. The only thing you probably thought of at that time is the pain that you're going through. But that, because I realized that, you know, so what it tells me is that I need to engage my physical movement in my daily activities. And you guys don't have to practice yoga. I'm just saying that's what I do. But you know, you can work out, you can dance, you can write, like, you know, with your hand. You can cook, you can do housework, you can clean, you can do anything with your physical body. That's going to bring you back to the present moment, and everything that you do, just really focus on that. And I realized that now it's very hard for me to not be in the present moment, because again, going back to the pattern, I'm able to replicate that pattern for myself. So in a way, you alternate your given DNA with your new DNA.
So just a follow-up question to this, you know, how you say that you have this projection of future, for like a future Zip should be this way and a future Zip should have all of this. I think most of us also end up doing that. We're having that future bias. So what I wanted to understand was, how are you able to sort of take away the pressure and turn it into a purpose? I think that is also really important to understand. And Professor Luca and Dean Kennan, it's something that I also want to ask you guys, because y'all are like constantly in touch with us. We come to you for everything, and there is that pressure with us, but your 2 cents on that also would really be helpful.
I let Professor Linda and Kate go first.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're talking about the pressure.
Yeah,
to get
like, you know, because
listening to everything, my own thought is this, my 2 cents, let's put it this way, is you have to find what makes you happy, what you enjoy doing. And I always say to people, you know, it could be something very simple. You know, maybe it's painting your nails every day or something. And then work from that. Start from whatever it is you feel passionate about that you could do every day for as long, and work outward from that.
Okay.
And to the point about getting no's, that to me just means I just have to approach it differently. If it's something I really want, I'm not going to accept a no. I've always been like that. It's not because I'm older. You know, even it's just, let me try it a different way. The different way might be, let me find a competitor then to work for. I wasn't hired over here, but I know that I love this. It takes a lot of pressure off. I think the pressure that we get is from these expectations.
Yes.
You know, like, I have to succeed, I have to have this, I have to have that next to my name, I have to just kind of clear that out and do what makes you feel joyful. And it takes a while to find it. It's not like you're gonna know it right away. Sometimes you experience other things. It took me forever to get into advertising. It took me years to figure out that was what I wanted to do. If you had mentioned that to me in college, I'd be like, what, advertising? Why would I want to be in that?
Yeah.
But as I started to take these like administrative jobs or jobs just to pay the rent, I realized who I was and what I liked. So that then I realized, oh, I can actually do really well in this job. nothing to do with creative, it was more about problem solving. And I could do that all day long. So, anyway, sorry, that was a
I really want
No,
to triple
yeah.
lie the word joy because, as you know, like that's
Yeah.
a thing I always
Yeah.
encourage you guys as
Yeah,
well.
find your joy.
And talking about tuning in, right? You unless you really reflect on what brings you joy, otherwise you will never know it because you will always look outward and you'll be like, that person seems to have fun. I want to party like
Yeah.
them. And then that is actually when I felt like I was behind because I'm like, I can't compete on that game. Yeah. And Kate.
So to share a not taking no for an answer, because I completely agree with that. It doesn't mean that you keep going back to the same place though.
Right.
You take that no and you adjust.
Yeah.
You take a step to the side,
Yeah.
right? Or a step forward, but over to the side, I should say. So I applied to Fordham for my PhD many years ago, and I was rejected because I didn't take the right language in my undergrad. Like, well, it's a little late now to tell me. Actually, siete años de España. They don't want Spanish as your second language, and I'm like,
Oh,
okay.
wow.
And here I am. I got doctorate from Fordham by taking a different approach. So, and I'm very grateful for that. And I tell that story all the time here at Fordham. But I completely agree about finding the little moments of joy to navigate those no's, right? I think that your advice about the writing is it has to be underlined 3 times. Because even today I was reading an article in the New York Times about how to sleep better.
I need to work on that.
Right, I do too, you know, and they're really finding all of this research about how not getting enough sleep is affecting everything, including your resilience. So if you have a good night's sleep and you don't get the answer you want, you can find that alternative. But if you had 3 hours of sleep, like some professors in this school say you should get, no names, I don't agree. But if you get 3 hours of sleep and you get a no, that's going to be devastating because you don't have the physical resources
Yeah.
for resilience.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everybody needs a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
And one of the things they recommend is that you have a journal next to your nightstand, on your nightstand next to your
Yeah.
bed.
Yeah.
And you write down your chaos thoughts. The thoughts that are keeping
Yeah.
you up at night, or you think are gonna make you wake up at 2 a.m. like, oh my God. I'm gonna do lousy in that quiz, or oh my God, I didn't do that. Right, or I gotta pay this bill, or whatever the issue is. If you write that down, they have proven that that will not bother you during the night. And you can have a better night's sleep. I mean, that's remarkable, right?
Yeah.
But it makes sense, like, it's unleashing,
Yeah.
and it helps your resilience.
I just want to add to
Andy
this.
has a.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I just had a question about that. First of all, I think I completely agree about the writing. I think like if you can, writing it down makes it exist in a place other than your mind.
Mhm.
So you know that it's not going anywhere, so you don't have to hold on to it in your mind.
Right.
Which is why the journaling is so good. But I had a question about like writing and editing, because I feel like editing is something that we talk about a lot in our classes, and something that I've always found that like when I write something and I come to it the next day, I'll always have something that I want to revise about what I wrote the previous day. So like how, like while you say that it's great to write and to write every day, like do you think that writing can also, like do you think that like revising previous work also counts as writing, or should we do both, or should we focus more on just creating and then maybe in the future like looking back at previous stuff, or just I feel like I improved the most at writing when I look back at what I've already written. So like how would you like balance those two, I guess? How would you suggest?
So I love your questions because I'm definitely one of them. But kind of build up to what Kate said. I'm actually someone who wake up at 2 a.m. very often, but not because I have something that I have to write out. It's just that like my mind is just so alert, and like it's not even like because I'm struggling with something. It's just like I have so many thoughts that I need to like get it out for me to get back to sleep.
So the research says if you do that at 11,
No, but it's
you
not
don't
planned.
wake up at 2.
No, but nothing is planned. Like my mind is so alert at night or any time that I have like my note app. It's just something that I just constantly write. It's not that like I dedicate 6 a.m. is when I'm sitting down and write, or 11 p.m. is when I reflect at the end of the day. Like my thoughts just come out naturally as just what I'm speaking right now. Like I know you guys sent me a list of questions, but honestly I did it like I told them just like ask any question because I'm not going to prepare for it. I know that I'm just going to be able to speak to them anyway because it comes from my experience.
Yeah.
But to answer to your question, actually, let me see if I can find a note that I think actually resonate with you, because and Zachary also kind of know this. Speaking of sleeping, last week, like if you saw me in the office, I was like I told you guys like this week is so hectic, you guys.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry for my slow to respond, but I know that sleeping is also important, and today you guys see completely different Zip because this is how I'm recharged, like I get the energy from you guys. So I want to share this note because actually I think this is something that I also share with Zachary, but here I'm reading to you guys. April 14th, 8:11 p.m. Forgive yourself for a typo. You work the whole Saturday night and stay up until 1:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning to edit the video, Blooming Crisis. It might not be an excuse, but it is the reason why you should be proud of yourself instead of beating yourself up for typing failure instead of failure. Like this literally, like I just couldn't forgive myself for one of the videos that I posted on Blooming Crisis. And I'm like you, like I reflect on everything that I've written, and I'm like, and I always pick up the things that were wrong. And I just couldn't sleep because I was supposed to write failure on the caption of the video that I posted, but I typed failure. And if anything, I think that's your strength, because you're someone who have the ability to reflect and identify what could have been improved. A lot of people make the same mistake all the time because they don't reflect. But I think that instead of thinking that is a challenge, I think you just need to kind of find ways to be kind to yourself. You just need to cultivate that kindness to yourself that, I know that I will not be perfect, and I'm not perfect, and that's just like everyone else, and we all make mistakes, but I know that because I'm able to identify what could have improved, my product, my outcomes, my results will always be better and better and better with time. And that is your strength. That's a superpower, by the way. Very few people reflect on what they have done wrong, what could have been improved, and even if they do, very few people have the courage to embrace it, because a lot of people want to deny the part that feel wrong to them. So thank you for asking that question.
No, actually, thank you so much, because I feel like the first half when Zip was mentioning like you reflecting, I think that is one bit we end up missing, because you just want to pen it down and then that's it. Even the whole reflection bit, I think I've been someone who would be so afraid of reflecting back on some of the pieces that I would write in emotion, because personally it made me feel cringe, because I was like, what was this Vinita thinking? She was like going through a breakdown, and I don't want to visit that again, and it's just another page in the diary. But I think with Zip saying this, reflection is important, and just the courage word, I think that's super important. Okay, I had a messy emotional breakdown, but what did we learn from this, and how are we going to get better? So thank you so much for actually bringing that reassessing bit up.
I actually wanted to add to this, like what Dean Kate said about journaling. I would like to really recommend people to check this out, 5-minute journal. You have your thoughts, but it's also important to be having gratitude with what you're going through. And that's something we sometimes forget, that universe is aligning or doing things around us to make us realize that what we have right now, we should also be grateful for that. So the pain, the discomfort that we're going through, or the patterns that we're going through, there's this 5-minute journal. It's really a very good journal. Like, you can every day at the night, you can have these. They have this 5 prompts that you can make note of, that what happened in your day, what was the good thing, and it just makes you realize that with all that's happening, you can this makes you feel more realigned to yourself. Like, okay, yeah, it keeps you grounded. It's like, okay, this is happening, but there's something good that's also happened. I can see that good, right? So that's there. And also adding, I just read about sleeping, that if you don't sleep 5 hours a day, just yesterday, you feel 4.5 years older than what your actual age is. Like, I read this just yesterday. I read this.
I'm about 100 right
Yeah. So it's like, so that's your body physically, like Dean gets it, your body physically feels like
Yeah.
feels like
You need
4.
to
I was like,
carry your
wow, that's,
physical body.
and I can actually relate to it as we're growing older.
That's probably the number of hours.
As we're growing older,
Um,
but it's interesting that this all conversation that we're having about pain, discomfort, patterns. My follow-up question to this, Zip, is that coming to personal relationships, people, and we talk about balancing career, we talk about balancing professional aspects, but have you had an instance where you have like had a complete breakdown, things falling apart, where even with your positive or reflection exercises, you've not been able to solve that, and how did you like move on to that and like still kept that growth driven mindset going?
That's the whole point about blooming crisis,
Yeah.
right? I think that I think I already talked to you guys about the period of 2 years when I went through depression myself, when I felt like I had everything and nothing felt right to me at that time. And I think that it was very, very tough, for sure. And especially, what you went through that time, I think sometimes the reason why a lot of people feel lonely is because oftentimes we feel like the thoughts, the things we are going through is so taboo to share with anyone else.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I hope through this platform, through this community we have, we can break those taboos and can talk about anything, right?
Yeah.
I think when we talk about mental health, the most important thing is that there's a safe space you can always go to, and nothing is too crazy to talk about.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that for myself.
Okay.
And
So how did you like navigate that, or like how did you deal with it?
I think that it's kind of like a double-edged sword for me, because it really tear me down, but at the same time because of that situation, it really forced me to go inward deeply and bring myself out. And I think that because there's always a deep desire inside of me, even in the toughest situation, in any situation, is that I have a desire to live. And I don't want to live an unhappy life. I want to live a life that feels meaningful to me. And that's when, because of all of this situation, crisis, quote unquote, it really forced me to rethink about what I ultimately need and not want. Because what you want and what you need could be the same, but it could be also very different. And some of you here, probably this one will resonate with a lot of you. You may want to stay in the US because you're an international student looking for a job. Finding a job here is very difficult, but you may not need it. That's the thing. You may want it, but you may not need it. What you need is that your talent is in the right place.
Yeah.
And that is the mindset that I have. And there's a word in Vietnamese that I really, really, really love. And that word is duyên, and it's spelled D-U-Y-E-N. It's pronounced duyên. And it has many layers of meaning. One meaning is the inner charm that you have. then you can embrace it. And it's not about like outer beauty. You can have certain physical appearance, but you can also meet someone that they might not be the most beautiful, the most handsome people that you've met, but they have some inner charm that really shines from the inside out, right? That's Zuen. But there's another layer of meaning, and that's why it's very hard to translate to English. It's kind of like fated encounters,
Okay.
and things that are meant to be in your life. So, you know, for example, like there's many students out there, there are many professors out there.
Yeah.
Why are we here today together? I don't even know you guys. Why are you guys here? Because we have Zuen.
Yeah.
You know, like it just meant to happen here with us in the same room, and this is not something we can replicate in the future. You will be with different people, different situation, different kind of energies. But that is something I always embrace in my life, is that I always trust that what's meant to be will happen at the right time. And it's actually, when I say the right timing, it's actually most of the right timing. You know, so you don't wait until the right timing when it happens. You do everything that you continue doing in your journey, and when it's right, RIPE, it will happen. It will happen. And there are many relationships, many wishes that you have, many dreams you have. But you need to first be self-aware of yourself and know that you're meant to have a happy life. That's the belief I always have for myself. And I mean, now I can comfortably and confidently say to you guys, I do feel genuinely happy. Like I do feel happy with my life, and I don't have everything figured out, but I'm happy. And it's not that the mindset that I was like, I want to be happy anymore, you know? Like I know, like in the present moment, I'm happy. And you can tell because my energy doesn't lie. Your energy is like also don't lie. But you know, it's the Zuen, like that word, ChatGPT it.
Yeah.
It's gonna
No, I actually
give you guys
it's very interesting because
yeah.
I wanted to know from anybody else want to share their lives Zuen, like
Yeah.
moment like where they now are at, or they think that happened in past in their life that they felt was kind of like Zuen, like aligned or like meant to be. So if anybody has that something they could share and like talk about and take a few moments to think. But I really think it's a very interesting thing because destiny does play a role. And coming back to Professor Linda saying finding joy, sometimes the joy comes from life happening to you, right? Like not everybody, I never knew that I would do marketing, like even though it's very popular, but the things that led up to me coming to this program, there are so many other fields out there, other passions you can pursue, but you don't know about them right now. So when and what time they come to you in life is what I think Zuen means to me, like that it's meant to be. So I really want to know if someone has something that they think was Zuen for them.
It's a good reflection exercise.
I'll share something, and I'm not sure if it answers your question completely.
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to put it out there on the table anyway, because it brings me joy. Professor Johnson, who was program director before Professor Luca, used to say that we meaning Fordham, we're not training you for a specific job. Because that job probably doesn't exist yet, right? But we are training you to be self-aware, to be professional, to be open to opportunities, to critically think, right? Which I think is all in line with what you're saying, all of it together. And even to go back to your question, Andy, about when and how should I go back and edit, right? To me, that says you have a great capacity for reflection, which we talked about, and self-awareness, right? So there's no right or wrong answer to that. The fact that you want to do that means that you already have that answer, right? But I do encourage you to go back and look at your own writing because it gives you terrific perspective. Like, oh, that's what I was thinking back then, right? And it ties together with the gratitude journal because you go back to your gratitude journal. Oh, I was grateful for that last year. I'm still grateful for that. And it gives you so much perspective. But to go back to Professor Johnson's statement, I would really like that to be on the table throughout this whole conversation, because you can't be prepared for everything, right? But you can have this idea of being open to join at any moment.
Yeah.
And even this morning when I met some admitted students, we had an admissions event today, and they were asking me about networking. And I said, well, there's going to be opportunities to network like we are right here. Now we've made these meaningful connections. And I think that ties in too with its definition.
Yeah.
What is meaningful,
Yeah.
right? And if you are excited about something and willing to share that, that's going to bring that person into your life, even as you're talking about it, right? Or go out and volunteer because you're going to talk in an area that you like, because you're going to talk to the next person volunteering, and you're going to have this really spirited conversation about whatever it is, and that's building the bridge to this concept. Oh, I'm really excited about, I use the example of working at maybe an animal shelter and petting puppies and whatever, you know, and then the next person is walking a dog, and you're having this wonderful conversation about that dog, and you're building the conduit for more connections, which I think is the definition of this word.
Yeah, so it's really about the connections that are meant to be, the life events happening in your life that are meant to be.
Right.
Even like the, you know, like we may not be together in the same room after this, like as a whole pack like this, but the fact that we are here this time together is because we have the Zuyuan with each other, right? And what it means is that there's part of me that you guys relate to. There's part of you that, you know, I gravitate towards. And just kind of also tie it back to what is actually going to be practical for you guys is when you go out there applying for jobs, talking to hiring managers, you need to really ask yourself an honest question and be able to answer that question honestly, is that what kind of value I want to develop and learn from, you know, the people that I'm surrounded by. That's not just people that you're approaching in networking event, but also your group of friends. You know, is there anything that you, and it goes back to how you can kind of continue that Zuyuan together, right? Because we may have this period of time that we have Zuyuan together, and then maybe we also go different parts, and it's just part of life. But for people to, this is fundamental of human psychology. When you think about it, people gravitate towards each other because either that someone inspire or awaken something in ourselves, or remind us of some parts that are hidden in ourselves. That's really it. That's how we gravitate towards each other, even whether you can put it down into words or not, even in relationship, in jobs, in professional networking, that's really it. And in order to do that, you, instead of like showing up trying to collect everyone's business cards or adding everyone's on LinkedIn, saying hello, goodbye, to create that Zuyuan, you, first of all, you can't force it, but what you can do is to embody the energy you want to attract. And if you want to attract people who gravitate towards you because of who you are and truly value you because of who you are, then you have to be yourself first. And that means, you know, when you meet someone, don't be afraid of trying to blend in. You know, don't try to just be like everyone else and just sing because I think that's right. Don't be afraid to embrace your true self, because if the person you're talking to isn't interested in you, then it's just not meant to be. It's just you don't have that zuyuan with that person. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
That means that you have zuyuan with someone else.
Yeah.
Zachary and I, for example, completely different from, you know, like if you look at from the outside, we're very different. Like we can't be more yin and yang. And by the way, I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think that's exactly why I love having him on the team. I love like different perspective and diversity. But there's something that we are very similar is that when I interview Zachary, I for some reason I just sense that he's someone who also didn't quite fit in. You know, he's a kid that I feel like in his journey, in his life, he's probably always feel out of place. And that's something weirdly enough for everyone else who probably see me as a social butterfly and the like all of the characteristic, which I also don't think that is wrong about me. But there's a hidden part of me that very few people, unless I share about it, know about me, is that for my whole life, I always feel out of place. And I actually relate to Zachary in that sense. You know, we are very different, but we are also very similar. If he feel like I'm a weird kid in the block, I also feel like I'm the weird kid in the block. And I can see that he's very authentic and very genuine in his approach, and not like everyone else who just try to be liked by me. And I'm also like that, you know, I'm just putting myself out there. Whoever like me, they will come to me. If they don't, that's fine. We don't have this real.
Yeah.
So I encourage you guys to embody it. You know, I don't think that Kate and I, or me and Linda, like, I don't think we are still talking and like connecting because we force it. I think it just comes naturally, you know? Yeah.
So, you know, since you were talking about embodying it, and just as a final question, something to close the podcast on, a reflection question rather, I would say, in one sentence, if you could say, what are you blooming into? And then we could just pass around the entire table. Because I think that would just be such a nice way to sort of end our conversation with on a very positive note. So, to use this, what are you blooming into then?
Can we do the other way around? Can we go around the room first?
So I think Zach can probably start it and lead the way for us. That would be great. Come on, Zach.
So what am I blooming into?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very hard because it sort of requires me to look ahead to what I want to be, and I don't know what I want to be. So, I guess at its core, I'm trying to bloom into the success I envision for myself. So, you know, like the kind of lifestyle I want to have, the kind of family I want to have. So like I have a long-term goal of, you know, I want to be married, I want to have kids, I want to live a very, you know, good and successful life. So I guess that's sort of what I'm trying to bloom into. And what's hard about that, and what makes this a difficult question, is I can have all the visions of what I want to be, but trying to figure out how to get there is what, I mean, that's what the hard part is, because you don't know how to, it's hard to figure out how to make things happen. And I always try and look at myself as someone that knows how to make things happen. Because I'll take a niche interest of mine and be like, okay, well, let's figure it out and learn how to do it. So over COVID, I don't know how, but I stumbled on videos of guys that were braiding whips out of paracord and then doing that. And they were whip crackers, you know, like in the Old West.
That's crazy.
And I said, wow, that's really interesting. I could probably learn that. So I never wound up braiding a whip, but I said, okay, well, I can buy one, I can teach myself how to do this. So I did, because I wanted to do it. So what I want to bloom into yes, I have a vision of that. How to get there it's a journey.
And that's part of the process.
Exactly, it's
Yeah.
just trying to address, where do I wanna be, how can I do this?
Mhm.
And yeah, it's difficult, but, so it makes it fun.
Nice, thank you. Andy?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we were going to.
That's okay.
Moving into, what am I moving into today, or?
Just general. I mean, I think hearing from
I was
you.
gonna have so much more time to think.
And you're wrong.
I guess, coming into, basically, I'm gonna be finished halfway through my undergraduate at the end of this month. So, I guess I really, I tried to start expanding. Fordham is very small and it's very easy, especially living on campus, it's very easy to just look at my classes, just my classes. And when I'm done with my classes and done with my work for my classes, I am spending time with friends or doing so many things that are not really looking very far into the future, at least professionally. But I think partly like moving off campus next year, which I'll be doing, and applying to internships and just getting outside of the small Lincoln Center campus is gonna hopefully give me a lot more perspective and just make me start thinking of myself separate from Fordham, because eventually I will be.
Yeah.
So I definitely, my perspective is definitely growing at a rapid pace, when before I feel, especially as a freshman, it was like I was living in I was living on campus, so it was like I had a mansion and I was just taking my classes, down the street and I could just walk.
Yeah.
If I forgot my pen, I could just run upstairs to my room and get my pen. But now, if I forget my pen, I'm gonna have to take the subway all the way up. So I think it'll teach me that separation of like, I have a life outside of school, and it'll also teach me, I think, to be a little bit more realistic, like it is the real world. And I'm halfway done with my profession, so I should get that shit.
It's good to realize that the real world is not living in just
Yeah,
those.
it's a bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've realized quite soon, so that's good.
I feel like I'm really good, thank you.
Well, if you happen to see me somewhere in this bench of ours, feel free to ask me for a writing implement. I think I'm in a situation where, well, in earlier years of my life, I think I could afford just to coast on town alone. And did not see much need for the intentionality of discipline. But of course, life has a way of catching up to us if that's the approach we take. It definitely caught up to me. I think I've been able to adjust for that in many significant ways, but one aspect that I think could use a bit more focused attention, I think, is public speaking. I have a very strong affinity for natural language, but I think I want to focus just trying to get more opportunities to really tailor the messaging for a given audience. And not get stuck in the sort of fanciness of my own word construction palettes. Yeah, so I'll be looking for chances to do that as the year goes on. Period.
Thank you for sharing. I mean, that's technically public speaking. So
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah.
I think for me, right now, it would just be blooming into a lot more self-assured version of myself. I think that for me is super important right now, because we're all going through a space of trying to find an internship, trying to adjust ourselves according to a JD that we really want to be in. And that can get a little confusing. Also, just as an international student, trying to fit into New York, trying to find your friend circle and all can also be overwhelming. So I think one of the things that I'm personally focusing on is blooming into a lot more self-assured version of myself. And second would be just a lot of self-belief and backing myself up, because I think that can tend to be a little icky situation. But this conversation and just having a lot of us here share that, okay, there are difficulties, but there are a lot of these unique ways to deal with it. I think I'm going to take a lot of inspo from here and try to bloom into a better version. So that's for me.
Can I request everyone, and I'm so mad at myself I didn't come up with this earlier. Can we clap after everyone says something?
That's what also comes from me, right?
We need to clap for Zachary and Andy and everyone. This is really amazing, you guys. Harshi.
For me, a lot of introspection has happened in the last year. I left a very comfortable life in India. I had everything I wanted, but something was missing in me. Something was there that I felt was like, is calling me. And for me, going forward, I want to bloom into more of like a more self-love, self-acceptance of myself. Believe that, even if there are days when it's hard, I try to do my best. So I'm getting there. So there are days when I feel like I've not done enough, like I could have done this, I could have done that. But I realize it's a journey, and when I try to take a pause and look back, and I want to be doing more of that, where I think that I should be proud of myself for where I've come and have more appreciation for what I've done in my life so far. Because a lot of times it's easy to like compare yourself with others, but there are also people who want the life I'm living right now. So that gratitude, practicing more gratitude is something I really want to continue doing, because I believe in that, and that is a big part of my value system. And also seeing the good in people, I want to continue doing that. So giving people the benefit of the doubt, seeing the best in them, even though it can be backfire, or it can create hardships for me, make me come across as I'm not the authentic person. I want to keep seeing good in people and be good to people, even if it looks like it's not.
If they think that's not authentic, they are just, you don't have to admit that first.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, that's something that I want to look into.
So mine is very simple, that I want to be definitely a better but a more prouder version of myself than I'm currently like in this situation. And I just want to have a great story, because everything I do, like from the time I came to US, now I think of creating a great story, because I know that there are people back in India, my younger siblings and the next generation and their parents, they're looking forward. I mean, because I come from a small town, I am going to be a story, and I just want to be a good one, so that they feel proud and they feel confident coming here or in pursuing their dreams overall. So yeah, that's it. Not just for myself, it's just for everybody, and it will eventually make me happy. Even if I end up not doing marketing, not analytics or anything else, just be happy and a proud version of myself. Yeah, that's
You should be proud of yourself.
Yeah.
So for me, I think what I want to bloom into is I don't know how to say it, but it's very all-rounded. So I want to be a healthier person in my future. I want to be better in my career. I want to lead a happier life. I want to be a better person than I am right now, with more clarity, with more calmness, and I think that would make me happier overall.
I think at this stage of my life, I have to flow into fully finding myself, because like right now I'm just going through the recruitment process, finding different internships, going through multiple stages of interviews, and I realized that like in that process, eventually you are more kind of looking, like finding yourself, because like, okay, what you're good at, what your like weaknesses at, like you have to talk yourself, and eventually like going to the recruitment process eventually selling yourself, and to sell yourself, you have to kind of fully understand who you are, what you want to be, what is your strength, and etc. So eventually, I think like I'm into that right now.
Speaking of selling yourself, not to bring it back to Living Crisis, but there's an episode on sell yourself, and it may change your perspective right now. I encourage you to listen to it.
Okay.
But thank you for sharing.
I think the entire conversation we had today was really interesting because we talked a lot about like the importance of reflection, and this might sound weird, but for me, I've kind of had the opposite issue where I introspect, like from a young age, I'm like constantly into like self-improvement, constantly, how can I do this, how can I do that, and I think this year I had kind of decided, not that I'm going to be like, oh, I'm done, I don't need to improve anymore, but it's more so like, kind of like what everyone's saying, like stepping into like, we're in this period of uncertainty and the unknown, right? And I think this is a great opportunity to stop seeking that external validation and know that I don't care, it doesn't matter who is saying no to me, or what company or whatever, that doesn't determine my worth, or it doesn't determine what I like, who I am, or like what I think of myself. Like those two things are like separate, and yeah, I think essentially that confidence of knowing like like what my life looks like externally is not a description of who I am. Like who I am is beyond that. So I think that is what I am blooming into and I'm learning to do this year.
I can't agree more with that. And I deeply relate to what you just shared.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're gonna laugh when I say this. If I want to bloom into something, it's Jackie Robinson. I don't know if you're familiar with Jackie Robinson, but he lived by a creed that was about your life should be measured by the impact that you have on others. And I would love to follow, not as a baseball player, but following those footsteps to continue for as much as I can to help people, to help and have an impact. And that's why I love being here at Fordham. It gives me an opportunity to do that more than when I was in business working, full time. So that's fine.
I think you're already blooming into it, so.
Thank you. Okay.
Last but not least, Dean Karen, we'd love to hear from you what you're blooming into.
What is the question again?
What are you blooming into?
So this may be a surprise to you, but I still haven't quite figured out what I want to be when I grow up. And I think I'm blooming into that. Well,
is that why you're studying for it now?
That's the secret.
Right? I'm not quite grown up, and I think I'm okay with that. So I'm gonna be okay with that. Right?
Such a interesting perspective, I think. And I'm so inspired right now. I have so many thoughts, but like I will share that later on.
Should I also share?
Yeah, but yeah, it's been an amazing time with all of you, listening to all of your perspectives. But we would like to also open up it for some questions or like.
But I don't think Zip shared. Zip has not shared what she
No, because honestly, I really enjoy listening to everyone. And also, I just like having to say this, otherwise I will forget. That's how present I try to be every time. But like for example, like when it really makes me feel very emotional when I hear everyone sharing what you guys want to bloom into. For example, like Zachary when he shared his, and knowing him for quite a long time now, like 2 years, and seeing each other every day in the office, almost, and working together. I know that it takes a lot of courage for him to also share his journey, what he's trying to go into. So, deep respect. Professor Linda and Professor Kate, I think that, I don't know if I have to say this, but, there's something I really love about these two women is that, I've seen other schools where other professors compete with each other to stand out in how much they help students. And the reason why I love coming back here is because I'm someone who loves bringing people together, and Professor Linda and Professor Kate embodied that energy that I also embody myself. And I think that's how we have the Yuan together,
Yes.
because I deeply respect that between them, and they don't have, they overcome their self-interest, or like the things that like this for me, this about Kate, this about Linda, like this, what they are doing is really for you guys. And Linda, what you just shared, and Kate, I know you're still figuring it out for yourself, which I deeply admire. I think you guys really are doing it, like in a big way. And I know that the students can feel that for sure.
Thank you.
Yes, 100%. You would think that only students compete with each other. I've seen professors compete with each other.
Oh, yes.
And this is something that, even like without going to Fordham, this is something that I see, I observe, and I admire. For me, I think that, to be honest, that's a tough question for me. Because that's the question I always ask myself when I'm blooming crisis. But I think that the reason why I feel happy now, when I'm tuning in, like, what am I feeling now at this moment? I think that, even like for the last month, I'm not very active on like social media, like I'm not really, like, I've started to realize that, in this spring season, and it's kind of like a pattern I'm realizing every year now that I'm reflecting. I'm feeling reborn again in a different version of myself, and this version of myself this year, this spring, is that I'm just focusing on blooming and not trying to bloom into anything.
Okay.
And it reminds me of, the purpose of a flower, which is kind of blooming crisis, right? The purpose of a flower is not that a flower has to do something. A flower just be itself, and its fragrance will spread. And I think that's what I'm embracing this season in life, this time, is that I'm just focusing on embracing the fragrance that I already have, and the things that are really truly myself, and hopefully, that the fragrance itself inspire the people to embrace that for themselves. And it's kind of weird, to be honest. Like for the past month, I'm like, it's kind of weird that I don't feel like I have anything to prove. And my whole life, I was accustomed to proving myself. And for the last month, I was like, does it mean that I am just being stagnant? And, does it mean that I'm now falling behind, or I'm, like losing myself, or, it is a very weird feeling, because genuinely, like, I don't feel like there's anything else that I need to do to like prove myself, or prove my worth, or like prove that I deserve this, or like prove that I deserve, I should be recognized for certain things, or prove that I'm better than what people see me right now. And I don't have any of that anymore. And as weird as it sounds, it turned out to be quite a blessing. I spent like the whole month just reflecting on this season of my life now, and I realized that, that is the purpose of a flower, that sometimes you feel like you always have to do something and proving yourself that you're worth it. And when the right timing arrives, you just know that all you need to do sometimes is just to embrace your fragrance and let it speak for itself. So that's the season of blooming for me.
Thank you so much. There's some really nice parting words as to how we should just focus on blooming right now, and then everything else can just follow.
Thank you for the questions, really good questions.
Thank you for this.
And thank you guys for
Thank you, guys.
participating.